Hello, everyone. It's Elisa, and I'm glad to be talking with you today. I have just returned from an excursion across the country. I drove from Austin, Texas to Hemet, California, and took my uh, got a little practice in camping out and saw some beautiful sights. I'm sure I'm going to share some of those adventures with you, but they haven't really even integrated. I just got home yesterday, but I did feel inspired to come talk to you about something that I know I have had a lot of experience with, and I hear from my clients. This is something that happens to people, and I just wanted to share a little bit, give a little guidance, and let you know you're not alone if this is something you're struggling with. And I'm calling this a shift in consciousness. And so that happens when we become aware of a behavior pattern that we have and we're trying to change that. It's something that happens when we sort of just are naturally going into another state of awareness. We call this thing consciousness. So there's the larger thing that's going on in our world where we seem to be going into one state of consciousness to another. Sometimes we talk about that as moving from the patriarchal to a more collaborative way of being. That is this shift that's taking place, and there's multiple teachings about that through astrology, through the 13 moon dream calendar. My friend Heather Neary of the Shine movement is a great teacher on that topic. You can find those teachings far and wide. I am going to focus more on a more personal shift in consciousness. And so those of us who are committed to doing healing work, to doing consciousness work, will find ourselves in this process at different times. And again, so when you're trying to change a behavior pattern, maybe an issue has come up and made itself known through your dreams, and that's something that you're working with. Maybe in a relationship, you're running into a challenge and you find that, oh, there's something that you really have to see in yourself, or a change that you need to make in order for the relationship to continue to grow in intimacy and in harmony. So there are these places that we come to. Sometimes they feel like barriers. It's usually fairly hard work to move through them. And so that's what I'm going to share a little bit about today. There's just examples upon examples of how we run into these, or what these can be. One that I think we are all familiar with is when we're trying to shift a pattern of the inner critic, of having a lot of criticism towards ourselves. Maybe it's shifting a pattern of being nice, of a lot of us have a message inside that it's, if we're hurting anybody's feelings, then that's bad. So those are things that just really aren't true, because a lot of times when we are being true to ourselves, being true to the way the Spirit is moving us in life, we inevitably will hurt someone. Or this idea that the way to make change is to be harsh with yourself, to kind of crack the whip and make things happen, to force change. Those are all potential ways of operating, or ways of believing that you get another invitation to do it differently. Like the invitation might be, well, Is it for you to take that next step in your life? And will that cause people, someone in your life, hurt feelings? And maybe it's still for you to take that step. Or are you trying to make a shift and make a change, and you're learning some ways of being like self-compassion, or being kind to yourself, or self-care, and these go against something else you've been taught, which is, well, put the needs of others first, don't take care of yourself, on and on, or just those voices that are just very critical and harsh, and we believe that that's the way to get ourselves to move forward. So I'm not going into detail about those specific ways of operating, and more like what happens inside of our minds. That's mostly what I can speak to when now we're having an argument in our mind. So maybe before there was no question, if I'm doing something that's going to hurt someone, then it's not for me to do that. But now there's another invitation, there's another way of operating that's coming through that says, well, maybe that is exactly what it is for you to do. I'm not thinking of a good example right now. Let's see, maybe it's you're in a marriage, and you feel like the next step for you to take is to take a class, or do some volunteer work, or get a part-time job, and that feels like it's going to take you away from spending time with your family, or fulfilling some of your other volunteer obligations, or being, I don't know, cooking for the neighbors, or whatever it is that you tend to find yourself doing. So you're reaching this juncture, and you want to take that step forward, but the old way says, no, I can't, because look at all these people I would be hurting. Now we're introducing this other way that says, well, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay if those people have to find another way to meet those needs that you've been meeting. And now inside of your mind, there's this clash. One side says this, one side says this. Used to be, there was no clash, because you were only holding that one viewpoint of, it's my responsibility to take care of all of these people's needs. All right, remember, I'm just using that as one example. It can be anything. For me, one of the things that I'm wrestling with is just like noticing how much time I spend thinking about and analyzing situations. And this used to bring me comfort. I didn't used to challenge that. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm tired of thinking about that. What else could I be thinking of when I'm, or creating, or what could I be spending my energy doing? Okay, so there's this clash. Now there's two sides. And what I really want to speak to is how uncomfortable that is in our minds when we just begin to start that shift. So if you are in a place, using the example, where you really feel that it's in alignment with your being to take that class, to get that part-time job, to do something that's going to take you away from the things that you were doing, the things that you've focused on doing all this time, you feel that, you know that is true. That is the next step for you to take. But there's this angst inside, because the old way of being, you feel resistance from it, and it's sort of like this voice that's telling you you're doing something wrong. You're going down a path that's not in alignment, even though this other one is like, no, this is in alignment. I know this. You see what I mean? It causes this dissonance and this uncomfortableness. And I will even go so far as to say it's a little crazy making it when we're changing a thinking pattern or changing a way of operating. So I just want to let you know that I know what that feels like. I have heard that experience from many, many people, and sometimes it just means we're shifting our consciousness. We're trying out something that is so foreign, and it challenges notions or it challenges beliefs that we've held dear, didn't maybe even know how dear we held them. And so it causes this conflict within. And so I just invite you to approach it as if, well, you're going to do a little experiment, and you're going to do it for some time. And you're going to watch and see, well, how does this all pan out? And what happens in my life when I go ahead and step forward into the thing that my other part is so uncomfortable with. So let me just add that some things that might indicate that you are in this space already, or maybe it's already happening, is it often comes in our dreams. So maybe in your dream, which is your dream ego, is already behaving in a way that's really kind of out of your comfort zone or out of character for you. For me, this has been like being not afraid in a situation where previously I would have been afraid, or just saying very directly to someone, probably expressing anger to someone in a very direct way, where in the past I would never say that in my previous consciousness. So when you find yourself in your dream doing something that is kind of what you want to be able to do, but you feel scared to do, well, you're right on that cusp. You're right on that cusp of making that change. Another thing you might find in your dreams is, so squares in our dreams are symbols of kind of anchoring something into a new level of consciousness. So maybe even if you can see my door behind here, there's squares in the door. So if you were to notice something like that in a dream, or someone told me the other day they were putting some items into a square in the dream. Maybe the table in the dream is square. Maybe you're looking into a square mirror. Just really pay attention to the objects in your dreams. And so if there's a focus on squares, then that's probably a sign that, okay, there's a new level of consciousness that's trying to emerge here, and where you are being invited to engage with that, and in a more conscious way. I think that's all I'm going to say for today. But if you find yourself wanting to make a behavior change, make this shift in consciousness, or you just know that's the path you want to be on and you want some guidance, some companionship on that, please check out my website, www.i4heart.com. That's EYE, the number 4, heart, HEART.com. There's a lot of ways that I am delighted to help you to do that. From doing some intensive work all the way to maybe just listening to these videos or being on my mailing list. Also, if you like what you hear, please push the subscribe button so you can be a part of my channel. And if there's something that I've shared that really has helped you or resonated with you, inspired you in any way, and you want to contribute to my work, there is a link to do that in the comments below. So I want to close with just a moment of silence. I didn't mention it, but I have my candle lit, my incense burning to acknowledge this as sacred space, a place where learning, the learning through the eye of your heart happens. An acknowledgement of each of you who may listen or watch this video. And grace and peace for you in whatever is shifting in your consciousness. That's always happening. We're always growing. We're always changing. Sometimes it happens without our consciousness, and a lot of times with it. And so I share my intentions for that work with you, with the people you run into today. And thank you for listening. Amen.